What is up, woke family? It's your boy Wokey Bucks, and I'm back again with another video. Hold on 1 second, guys. One quick second. Yeah, so what we're basically going to talk about in this video today is how the Supreme Court decision between Roe v. Wade and them basically illegalizing abortion is going to affect Black women and women of color the most. You feel what I'm saying? So we're going to basically get into this article, and then from there we're going to move forward. You feel what I'm saying? So let's get into this article. Yes, sir. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, so women of color will be mostly impacted by the end of Roe. When they say Roe, they're talking about Roe v. Wade. Experts say, right? So as you can see here, you see a man and you see a Black woman. You feel what I'm saying? Let's get into it. Her entire life, Christina Mitchell has lived with Roe as the law of the land. On Friday morning, the 23-year-old, okay, that's a woman, okay, 23-year-old was on her way out for a run, okay, a jog in Houston, Texas. As she was about to walk out the door, her mother delivered the news. The Supreme Court has just overturned the fundamental right to an abortion. All right. My initial reaction was shock, said Mitchell, a law student at Southern University and A&M College in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. This year, Mitchell, who is Black, had traveled to D.C., which is Washington, D.C., to celebrate I'm going to butcher her name, but Ketanji Brown Jackson's confirmation to the Supreme Court. So for those of you who don't know who Ketanji Brown Jackson is, she's basically the first Black female Supreme Court justice that was elected to the Supreme Court earlier this year. Oh, so she was a part of this. Interesting. And she's a Black woman too. Interesting. Okay. Among a throng of supporters, she cheered and chanted and held up signs supporting the court's first Black female justice. That just goes to show you. We're going to get into it. I'm going to give you all my opinion in a few minutes. Now, what Mitchell feels the most is uncertainty in the wake of Dobbs versus Jackson's Women Health Organization decision. She viewed abortion as a Supreme Court justice, or Supreme Court had laid it out in its 1973 Roe versus Wade ruling, a fundamental right giving women the power to exercise control over their bodies. Okay. Wow, Mitchell lives in a state where abortion is banned. Oh, so Texas already banned abortion. Interesting. Okay. She doesn't believe that will affect her. She is religious and doesn't foresee getting an abortion herself. So this is my question. If you live in a state where abortion is banned and you don't see yourself getting an abortion, why are you shocked by it then? Because you were born into those situations regardless of the situation. Even with Roe versus Wade being a constitutional ruling that affected the whole 50 states, you already know how this country is when it comes to states' rights versus central rights. And when I say central, I'm talking about central government, like the whole country, right? You're going to have certain states that are going to try to do whatever they have to do in their best ability to protect their people, or for the governors and the senators to protect themselves. So why would you be shocked? That's what doesn't make any sense to me, in my opinion. But let's continue. She did, like I said, it mentions right here, you know what I'm saying? It mentions right here that she is religious. So when she says, especially when it comes to the Black community and them being religious, they can either be religious in two main sections: Christianity, which is probably number one, and then Islam. So I'm assuming when they say that she's religious, I'm assuming she's a Christian. So with that being said, we already know in the Christian religion, especially depending on the denomination you're in, they don't really support abortions. They don't support women ending another person's life, because the way we see it is that you giving birth to a child, that's a blessing from God. There's no guarantee that in the future you might ever be able to give birth again. So why would you take out one of God's creations because you decided to make a selfish decision? You decided to make a decision that you thought was best for yourself instead of considering the life that you created with another man when you had intercourse with that man. And this is my thing, like I said before, again, you're going to have consequences regardless of the act, regardless of the situations. You just want your consequences to be positive. And it's like having a child, to me, is a blessing. I really do believe in woke family, we can stand on this. It's a blessing. So if you get rid of the blessing that God gave you, there's no guarantee that you'll ever get that blessing ever again. That's what it is. But let's continue. But Mitchell is clear about who will be most impacted by Dobbs. It's going to affect black women more. Listen carefully. It's going to affect black women more. Black women more. Why are they saying it's going to affect black women more? We're going to get into it 100%. So as we can see right here, it says Supreme Court reversal leaves states free to outlaw abortion, right? All sides of the abortion rights debate have acknowledged that women of color, when they say women of color, that's a way for them to try to sound politically correct, but they're specifically referring to black women and maybe Latina and Hispanic women. But it's mainly black women that they're trying to afford to appeal to. Because look at the situation right here. Look what they said right here. It's going to affect black women. Did they say women of color here? Right? The article might have titled women of color, but there's a reason why, even in my title, I specifically mentioned black women, because I knew they were going to try to attack black women. Whenever a verdict comes out, one of the first things that they try to do is attack black women, right? And it's unfortunate. Look at the Amber Heard situation, right? I literally made a video on it a couple of weeks ago. What was the title? Amber Heard verdict sends a message to black women everywhere. It's like, how does black women have to do with Amber Heard's situation? Now, granted, in this situation, this is a completely different situation when it comes to abortion, but it's like that affects everybody. I'm not going to say equally. I'm not going to say equally, but it affects everyone to an extent. So it's like, why try to draw out a certain race just to be able to make headlines? To me, it's crazy. I'm not going to lie. But what do we do here? We speak the truth. You feel what I'm saying? From the spiritual realm, and from the spiritual lens of God, and we just continue to move. Let's continue. So, all sides of the abortion rights debate have acknowledged women of color. And like I said, they're talking about black women specifically, and Latina women too, are most likely to be affected by abortion laws. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, who wrote a concurring opinion, aka agreeing opinion, on the Dobbs ruling, has previously compared abortion to a tool of modern eugenics. Justice Samuel A. Alito Jr., in the court majority opinion, wrote in a footnote that is beyond dispute that Roe has had a demographic effect. A highly disproportionate percentage of aborted fetuses are black. This is my question, though. I'm pretty sure they do statistics and research on this, but it's like, where are they getting these statistics from? I'm just curious. You know what I'm saying? And I think everybody should be too. Let's continue, though. Not all states report racial or ethnic data on abortion. Okay, but among those who do, 29 states and District of Columbia, Washington, D.C., the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention have found that a disproportionately high share of women of color in 2019, the abortion rate for black women was 23.8 per 1,000 women. For Hispanic, wow. For Hispanic women was 11.7 per 1,000, and for white women was 6.6. Do you see the discrepancy between black and Hispanic women in general? 23.8 is like 24. And then 11.7 is 12. So 24 to 12, and then 6.6 is like 7. So 7 to 12 to 24%. And it's very crazy. Like I've mentioned before, we live in a very, very demonic world, right? Where people have taken advantage of what God gave for us to be able to show love to each other, and they'll just abuse it for their own personal reasons through having sexual intercourse. And it's just unfortunate, right? Because now you're seeing a lot of children that could have been born, they're being murdered as a result of selfish decisions. Now, obviously there are certain exceptions to the rule. Like, for example, if a woman was raped, you know what I'm saying? But even with that being said, I think in situations like that, you're better off putting yourself in a position where you give birth to the child. And if you cannot afford to take care of the child, then you give it up for adoption. But don't murder what God has given you as a blessing. Now, yes, you're going to have certain people that are going to talk about separation of church and state and so on and so forth. But it's like imagine if you support women doing this, like murdering their children or their fetuses, how would you feel if it happened to you or myself? How would you, I think the problem is that a lot of people don't put themselves in certain situations to see how it is from their perspective, unless they put themselves in that situation. That's just the truth. Let's continue, though. According to Guttmacher Institute, or I think I'm saying that correctly, Gutmacher or Gutmacher, a research and policy organization that supports abortion rights. The reasons for these higher rates are systemic, driven from a lack of access to and effective use of contraceptives. So if you don't know what contraceptives are, they're basically like ways to prevent pregnancy from occurring, right? They're basically like barriers to pregnancy. You feel what I'm saying? Like birth control, condoms, so many other things. You know what I'm saying? Plan B. There's so many different quote unquote contraceptives. As word of the High Court's decision spread on Friday, which was yesterday, racial justice and women's rights organizations, alongside liberal lawmakers, condemned this decision, pointing to the ways it could harm people of color, okay, by restricting access to abortion and potentially criminalizing them for their pregnancy outcomes. Today is a dark day in our nation's history, and the decision is a devastating confirmation of what Black and brown reproductive justice organizations have been sounding the alarms about for years. This court will stop at nothing to strip away our reproductive freedom and our fundamental right to bodily autonomy. Representative Ayanna Pressley from Massachusetts said in a statement, okay? This is a direct and pernicious assault on people of color. Okay, how is it an assault on people of color if white people are being affected too? White women are being affected. You can technically say it's an assault on all women then, technically, according to what you're saying. That's not my opinion. Including Asian and Pacific Islander communities where the path to abortion care is riddled by language barriers, cultural stigmas, and low rates of insurance coverage amongst our most vulnerable community leaders, wrote Isra Pananon Weeks, interim executive director of the National Asian Pacific American Women's Forum. Lupe M. Rodriguez, how long is this article? Lupe M. Rodriguez, executive director of the National Latina Institute for Reproductive Justice, said her organization was angry and crushed by the court's decision to uphold Mississippi's 15-week abortion ban, but not surprised. The courts have not served our communities, Rodriguez said in a statement. This decision will directly and disproportionately harm Latinx, basically, and all communities of color. This is an attack on racial justice, economic justice, and equality. Let me just say this one thing. When you try to speak the truth in society, they try to shame you by calling you a neo-Nazi, by calling you a racist, by calling you... Now, obviously, it really just depends on what you say. But for those who support this going on, even though you're going to say my body, my choice, cool, no worries, no problem. I understand that. But the reality of the situation is that it becomes it is your choice when you decide to have sexual intercourse with a man. It's not your choice when there's a life in hand, when there's a life at stake. Let me ask you, let me ask all the women that are going to watch this channel or watch this video this question. How would you feel if your mother aborted you? Let me say that again. How would you feel if your mother aborted you or aborted any of your siblings? So I understand when you say my body, my choice, when it has nothing to do with a life being involved. But once it comes to a life being involved, I don't think it should be the choice of a woman. I don't. You feel what I'm saying? And it's nothing against women in general, but I just like you're trying to literally eliminate what God has blessed you with. And for those who aren't Christian, those who aren't, fine, cool. But understand that a child is a blessing. You don't know if you're ever going to, and it's like, how would you feel if you were in that situation where you were aborted? You wouldn't like that. But your mother took a chance upon you. My mother took a chance upon me. Our mothers took a chance upon all of us that are alive and that are seeing this situation happening right now. But we want to be selfish and take away lives. Come on, man. Tennessee State Senator London Lamar said she is devastated and angry at Dobbs' ruling. The state legislature in 2019 passed a trigger ban, which effectively outlaws abortion in every state. It is unconscionable that a group of politicians who mostly neglect families that look like mine now have the power to endanger women's health and criminalize our doctor. So this is my thing, and I'm just gonna be real. You know what I'm saying? We on this channel, we speak the truth. We're woke, right? And we see it from a biblical and spiritual lens. As for all these women that are angry about the Dobbs ruling in regards to outlawing or overturning Roe v. Wade, Do you not understand when you're putting stuff like IUDs in your bodies, when you're using contraceptives like Plan B, when you're using certain things like those, right? Certain pills you take like the birth control pill. Do you not know that those things are destroying your bodies? So isn't it better for you to not have to take that just to prevent pregnancy? And you actually make a conscious decision that, you know what, if I sleep with this man and I get pregnant, it's my fault. Then for you to take those things and kill blessings, let's be real. Like we as people, we have to hold ourselves accountable for the actions that we decide to take, whether it's a positive or negative. This right here is a lack of accountability from a lot of these senators, a lot of these politicians, a lot of these political people, and they don't want to be held accountable for like the actions that people are taking. So it's not like the way I'm seeing it. I don't think it's anything against black women. I don't think it's against white women, Latino women. It's women in general just having the decision to be able to eliminate something or someone that's a blessing that could be a potential blessing to your life, has the potential to be a blessing to your life. And criminalize our doctors for offering appropriate life-saving care, said Lamar, who's black. How much more do we have to read? Yeah, we're gonna sum this up. I'm not gonna lie. Oh no, we're almost done. We're almost done. We'll start from here. Women of color, poor women, black women are often the canary of coal mine of these issues, Murray said. Their experience rally telegraphs where we are going with this. Friday's decision will have an immediate impact on these populations, she added. Advocates point out the difficulty accessing care, which will be compounded for trans people of color, many of whom report facing stigma or discrimination navigating the healthcare system. All right, let's get to the end, man. Now the United States looks like a country where the right to an abortion has been hollowed out, she said. Terminating a pregnancy will either be illegal or severely restricted in much of the middle and the south of the states. This will affect places where abortion is protected, such as the Northeast and the West Coast, as demand for these services surge, Murray said. In the landscape, every person seeking an abortion or other forms of reproductive care will be pushed closer to the margins. Murray predicts this is true even for people with means, those who can travel to other states or out of the country or be plugged into networks or services that can help them, she said. But for women of color, poor women who lack the resources to travel, who don't have the time to take off from work, who don't have additional child care for their children, it's going to be really grim. All right. And I think that's it. So that is the end of the article. For what I'm saying. 1 second. All right. So, like I said before, the situation here in which we're seeing, this goes to highlight everything that's been going on in the country and the way it's being seen. So it's really up for one to really determine how they're going to see it, but just understand that at the end of the day, for every action, right, there's always going to be a consequence, whether it's positive or negative. And with that being said, you have to be ready to take the decision in which you're facing, and just understand that with whatever is happening right now, there's always going to be a positive and negative that's going to come out of it. But understand that at the end of the day, it has the ability to change not only your future, but your child's future or children's future. So let's, as a people, understand that it's not about being selfish and only paying attention to ourselves, but understand that at the end of the day, there's lives at stake. Once we understand that there's lives at stake, we have to start being more conscious and being more accountable for our actions. Because now we're talking about taking away God's blessings, bro. We're taking away blessings, and it's like, at that point, it's totally unfair to the people that have to suffer that. It's unfair to the people like, no, we're not going to do that, right? Let's make conscious decisions about what we're doing on a daily basis that are going to affect us in any way, shape, or form, and start taking accountability for our actions and understand that with whatever we do, there's either going to be positive or negative things that are going to come out of that. And once we realize that there's positives or negative things that are going to come out of that, then from there we move forward and we think and we hold each other accountable and we do the right things, bro. Because this is the thing. We as a family, we're trying to level up. We're trying to get better. We're the woke family. You feel what I'm saying? We're trying to do everything that we possibly can to become the best versions of ourselves that can happen if we're not doing the right things. So let's hold each other accountable and let's continue to level up every single day. If you understand this because you're woke, If you don't understand, unfortunately, you're not woke. This is going to be in this live stream video. If you like this video, make sure you go spam that like button, leave comments, share this video with your friends, subscribe to the channel at Wokebucks, WOKEEBUKS. Tap the notification bell to get all latest videos that I post. Patreon link will be down in the description below, and so will social media links. So make sure you go give those a check. But without further ado, it's going to be in this video. This is Wokebucks, and I'm out, man.